In my last tutorial, I explained beam insertion on Orion 18 structural software. That was part one of that session. This will be part two of beam insertion on Orion 18. I told you that we are going to work on the main projects in this session. So now I'm going to go and I'll go and open my project alpha, my main projects on Orion. I will on the left corner of my open project dialog box, I will look for my main project, which is titled project alpha, project underscore alpha. I'll click on OK to open it. Now we are on my main projects. I've inserted the structural grid and the vertical structural members in the model. So now what I will do, I'll make sure I'm in story 1. I will click on the beam button on my member toolbar here. So I click on it. Here the beam property. So I need to specify these dimensions. So I'll go to my auto. I want to insert beam from grid intersection A1 to A2 at story 1 at the first floor suspended first floor plan GA. The first floor plan. I want to insert grid from A1 to A2. So I'll go to my AutoCAD drawing, my first floor GA. This is my first floor GA, and you can see the beam that's specified on the GA, the 230Y by 600 D beam from grid A1 to A2. In the same, this beam is actually the beam along the line A has the same property, 230 by 600. So all this beam 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is beam along the line A has 230 by 600 deep beam, and you should note the depth of slab is 200. Orion 18 does not ask for this value actually, but the depth of slab is 200. So you should know this 230 will be our B value, and the 600 our H bottom, our raw depth 600 from the bottom of the beam to the top of the floor. Our 600. So this is our H bottom value here. So I'm going to enter this value on Orion 18. Oh, before I do that, I also want to say that the B value is 230. There is a dimension called B2, and it is measured from one side of the beam. This is one side of the beam. I'm using the inner side of the beam. From the inner side of the beam to the grid line is 115. So the B2 is 115, and you should know that the beam is actually centered along the grid line. So I can use that button that centers our beam along the grid line. If I've not measured this value, you should know that the beam is centered along grid line A. So I'll minimize the AutoCAD screen now. And now on our beam property, we've noted that our B is 230, our B2 is 115, but we noted that it is centered along the beam. So you can click on this button and click center. This value will update to 115, which we measured on AutoCAD. Our beam support, we want it to be a moment support at both intersections, so I'll leave it like this. Our depth of beam is 600. So I'll zoom to this grid intersection A1, and I will insert a beam by clicking at grid intersection A1. I will drag to A2. Now I've inserted beam along this grid at this point. I can do that for A2 to A3, A3 to A4, one by one, but I won't do it like that. Instead, I will click A2 and drag to A7. So now I've inserted my beam element along the line A at story 1. So I think let's look at and we should note the beam flush exactly with the edge of my column. I'm not having any recess along the beam. Now we're going to insert our beam along the line B. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go back to our AutoCAD drawing. We check the dimension. It's also 210 by 600 from the inner face to this. The beam is also centered along the grid. So that means from the inner face to the grid is 115, but you can measure it to be sure. So 115. So our beam along the line B is 210 by 600 all through. So I'm going to insert the same property between the line B1 and B7, and I'll zoom to it for you to see what is going on here. You can see I've inserted my beam along that grid. You can see at grid intersection C. at grid line C rather, I'll go to my AutoCAD to check the property. At the intersection C, I have a beam between C1 to 2. I don't have beam between C2 to C2 to 6A. From this point to this point, the beam is between C1 to 2 and beam C6A to 7. This beam here and this beam here, there is no any beam in between. So I only insert my 230 by 600 beam at this region and at this region, and you should know that the beam depth is 230, the beam dimension is 230 by 600, 230 by 600, and it is centered. You should also know that it is centered. The beam is centered along the grid line. I'll use my measure tool to confirm this. If the measure is 115, 230, 115 is half of 230. So what I'll do, instead of clicking the beam button here to get to the beam property dialog box, I'll select one of the beam elements. I'll right click on property. So once you have done that, we will get the property of the selected element, which is what we want to insert between grid C1 to 2. So I'll click on grid C. I will drag to C2. Remember, on our drawing on AutoCAD, which we just checked, there is no any beam between C2 and C6A. So there's any beam there, but from 6A to 7, at this region, there is a beam here, a 230 by 600, which is also centered from the grid. So I've inserted my beam along grid C. At grid line D, check the beam on AutoCAD. We have a 230 by 400. So this is a 600 beam. So I enter a 230 by 400, and if you should note, the beam is centered along the grid too. So center along the grid means that our B2 is 115. So you can measure this to check. Measure from here, 115. So I will click on the beam element, right click, property. I'll change the B bottom to 450. My rod depth is 450. Then I will zoom at this column intersection. I'll drag to my other column intersection. So I have this beam zone now, and if you should check the label, it's 230 by 450. So remove since this is the only beam along the line D, I will confirm that on AutoCAD. So this is the only beam along the line D. So along the line E, we have the same thing, 230 by 450. It's also centered along the grid. So if I should click this point on the orientation software and drag this point, the beam will be inserted. It is from the beam edge to the grid, the 115. So it means that it's centered along the grid. So I'll minimize 230, 450, 115. Okay. I will zoom. I will click on this intersection point, the next intersection point, and to insert my beam, 230 by 500. So I've inserted all my beam in the horizontal direction. That's direction 1 direction. Direction 1 direction. I will insert my beam in the direction 2 direction, which is the vertical direction. So along grid line 1, I will check my model on AutoCAD. The first slot G. I have 230 to 600 from A to C, and I have 230 to 450 from C to D. So you should note this. I have 230 by 600 from A to C. So I have two different beam properties along the grid. So I'm going to minimize this screen. 230 by 600 from this point to this point, and also from this point to this point. While from C to D, it is 450. So what I'll do, I'll just change the H bottom to 450, and I will insert my beam. Note, if you click update, the beam selected will be updated to 450. It's currently at 600. You will not want to do that. So now what I will do, I will click on this intersection point, drag to the next. So I've inserted my beam along this line. I've inserted my beam along that line. Now we'll work on the grid line 2. On the grid line 2, we also have 230 by 600 from A to C at grid line 2. While from C to D is 230 by 450. And the beam is centered along the grid line. So it's 115 from the edge of the beam. I don't need to measure that again. So this is 230, 115. I'll change this to 600. And I will insert my beam from that intersection to this intersection. I'll do the same thing here. but from C to D it is 450. So enter 450. So I say that for now for the line 3, I'll check my AutoCAD drawing. For the line 3, it is 230 by 600 from A to C. The line 3, 4, 5, 6. They are all 230 by 600 from A to C. So I'll do that at once. 600. From this intersection, I'll drag to this point. I'll drag to this point at 4. I'll do the same thing at 5. I'll do the same thing at 6. At the line 6A, we check what is along that grid by using a 230 by 450 for both of the beam, the small beam and the long beam, 230 by 450. So 230 by 450, I will drag from this point to this point, and the two beams will be placed in my model. For the last grid 7, we have a 230 by 600 from A to C. 230 by 600 from A to C. While from C to E, we have a 230 by 450. So we should note that. So 230 by 600 from A to C along the line 7. So I'll click this grid line 7, this intersection point to this intersection point, 230 by 600. Two beams should be inputted in our model. While at from C to E, the depth is 450. So I'll change this to 450. As you can see, I've inserted my beam. So I'm now okay. So I'll zoom to each of the beams to see. This is a 7.2 beam. You see the label is written on one side, 230 by 600. The dimension is written on one side, 230 by 600, and the label on the other side. So we have specified all the beams on this floor. And we want to draw your attention to something before I close. On our model, remember when we were drawing our staircase, I told you that we're not providing that 230 by 450 beam, which is this beam, is not at this floor level. We're going to drop it down. We're going to drop it down. So in our next model, I will show you how we can edit this staircase beam. We drop it down from the normal level using the 3D tab on the beam property dialog box. Thank you for watching the video. So watch out for part 3 of this tutorial session on beam insertion. We work on our staircase beam. This beam here, 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 this beam here. They are our staircase beam, and they will be lowered from the normal level, which is the top level of the floor. Thank you again for watching the video.